I want to talk about this Renee Nicole Good situation. I actually want to talk about what nobody else is talking about, which is the bigger issue. I'm much of a bigger issue type of a guy. Let's unpack it. So, first things first, I'm not going to show any footage. And the reason why I'm not going to do that is because it doesn't matter. You guys have already seen all the footage. Everybody's already seen it. And what I mean by it doesn't matter is that none of us are a court. None of us are a judge. None of us are federal or homicide investigators. And so we could speculate all day long and about what happened. But it doesn't matter because speculation has absolutely nothing to do with anything. You can give your opinion. I can give my opinion. You could tell me that, hey, she tried to drive the cop over or the ICE agent, whatever. I could tell you, I don't think so. I feel like he moved out of the way of the vehicle, and I feel like he should be prosecuted for manslaughter. By the way, it wouldn't be murder. And I say manslaughter because I don't believe, well, I guess it could be murder. It could have been an overreaction, and it could have been murder. But it also could have been a former military guy, which he was, who was also a cop, who just recently was hit by a vehicle, which we don't know why. And this could be a PTSD overreaction. But if that's the case, takes away the premeditated factor. It's not first degree. And then you get down to second degree and whether or not it falls under that. And then, so there's a lot of things that could play out and will play out on a state level. For those of you who are unaware, the state has a right to investigate with or without the help of the federal government. It would be helpful if the federal government was to aid them in the investigation. But even if Trump and J.D. Vance decide that they don't want to, that does not matter because the state has a right to pursue charges. And if they find him guilty of charges, the federal government cannot pardon him because you can't be pardoned from state crimes by the president. You can be pardoned by a governor, but you can't be pardoned by the president. So all that being said, I want to talk about the much larger issue. And the larger issue to me is the predicament that led to this and how that could have been avoided. And that's what nobody's talking about. Nobody's talking about why is there a man who served in the U.S. military, who has had incidences with the police in his past as a police officer where his life was in jeopardy or things might have come close to hurting or harming him. And why is he now working for this department who's going into the cities and grabbing people who are American citizens and detaining them without probable cause, without any sort of legal, there's nothing that, they're violating rights, essentially. Supreme Court has found this. And why is this guy in this situation at all? when he probably shouldn't be, because you're taking a guy who has had arguably PTSD creating moments in his life. Why does he have a gun, and why is he walking up on inciting protesters? Probably not the best place for a guy like that to be. And then the other question is, why is this woman inciting or protesting and trying to halt this agency to begin with? And what is it that created this entire situation? And what created it is we are at a boiling point. We're at a boiling point in America where the temperature is the highest it's ever been in my lifetime. And I've spoken to people that lived during the Nixon administration, and they said it was really high during the Nixon administration, and they say it's twice as high now. The temperature is high. And whenever that happens, people look to their leaders, because it is the job of a leader to control the temperature. Period. It is the job of the person who leads to control the temperature. So when you go on social media and you're the leader of the free world, essentially, and you hold the highest office on the planet, many would argue, and you go on social media and you call people who are in another political party that you're not in an enemy of the state, a domestic terrorist, a threat to America, un-American, all this type of rhetoric, what do you expect? What do you expect? Do you expect those people to not get angry? And when those people get angry, the other side, and I'm talking to you now, those people who are getting angry, when you go and start throwing objects at these federal vehicles and yelling, "You're a murderer, you're a traitor, you're a fascist," you're making them feel like they're in danger, what do you think's going to happen? What do you think's going to happen? And so it comes down to like, well, what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? And that's when the blame game happens. One side is going to blame the other side over and over and over again and say that they're the ones who started it. You're the ones who started it, liberals, Democrats. You started it with all your nonsense ever since Obama. You're starting the division. You called white people a bunch of, deplorables, and, you did this and you did that, and you're the ones who started it. And then on the other side, they're like, no, you guys started it with all the racist remarks about Obama and questioning whether or not he was a citizen and blah, 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 blah. It's like two kids fighting. One kid hits the other, and the other kid hits back, and then the other kid hits back, and the other kid hits back, and you're trying to pull the two away, and you started it. No, you started it. I mean, where's the parent? Now imagine I'm a parent, two kids fighting. He started. I'm trying to pull him away. And instead of me trying to pull him away, I stop and I go, And I say to one of them, I say, man, well, I could see why you hit him in the face. He's a piece of crap. He deserves to be hit in the face. What do you think is going to happen? It's going to keep going. It's going to keep going. The parent pulls them apart. Shut up. Shut up. You shut up. You shut up. Both of you, go to your rooms. I don't want any fighting. That's what leaders do. They don't continue to perpetuate it. They don't continue to tell people to, keep going, do it worse. They don't turn around. Well, I didn't see my youngest hit my oldest. I didn't see it. I didn't see it. I think my oldest just started it. I think that's what happened. I think my oldest is a punk kid who needs to get it together. My youngest had every right to swing at him. No, I'm not going to punish him. What would happen if you did that with your kids? Would the fighting stop? Would that stop the fight? No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't stop the fight. It would make it worse. It would make it worse. And when you complain, when people complain and say, I hate this leader because he's not leading, he's not turning down the temperature, and then one side says, oh yeah, I know, everything's his fault. Everything's his fault. You guys hate him no matter what. Everything's his fault. You are the man who is the leader. You're the one in charge. No one above you. No one up here. It's a triangle, and you're right at the top. Buck stops with you. You're the one in control of the temperature. And let me tell you something. When you go on social media and the algorithms create a wave of content that suits your bias, if I were to go and create one Instagram account where all I did was like and heart Republican stuff and pro-MAGA stuff, and then I created another Instagram account where all I did was like and heart pro-Democratic stuff, anti-MAGA stuff, and, that kind of stuff, over time, both those feeds would have incredibly different realities. I could scroll down both of them at the same time, and they would both feed me completely separate realities. And the person over here is going to get all this information and think this is what is going on in the world. And this person's going to get all this information over here and think this is what's going on in the world. And that polarization makes them both completely not understand where the other one's coming from. Because you have one person going, you're a lunatic. What are you talking about? You don't live in reality. And the other guy, I don't. You don't live in reality. What are you doing? Because neither one of you are living in reality. You're living on the internet. You're living on your phone. You're living on video games and Discord and Snapchat and Instagram and TikTok and Facebook. That's what you're doing. That's where you're living. In X. And none of that is reality. What's reality, you might say? Well, how do we know what reality is then? How do we know what's true? What's true is what happens in court. That's what's true. Because everything's fun and games until you're in a courtroom. Because when you have a judge and a jury and a prosecutor and a defense attorney, and they're all sitting in a courtroom, and they're all hashing out a case, that is what becomes our reality. Our reality is defined by the law. Was OJ guilty? Sure. A lot of people might feel like he might be. But guess what? He wasn't. Now, does that mean that it's true that he wasn't? No, it just means that a court decided he wasn't. And whether or not your emotions or feelings don't agree with the court's findings, that's too bad, man. That is too fucking bad. And the reason why is because your feelings have nothing to do with the evidence that was displayed in a courtroom and have nothing to do with 12 people on a jury and what they thought, who heard all the facts of the case and what a judge ruled. All of that is the basis for our reality, not your feelings, not your emotions. That is called due process. Due process of the law. That is how we determine what's true. So you could go on TV and you could say until you're blue in the face on the news and on television that, well, this happened and that happened. And you could go on social media and make videos and you could make tweets and you could do all this stuff about this happened and that happened. But until you can go into a courtroom and say it under oath and back it up with evidence, then what you say doesn't matter. Because that is the basis for what we judge our truth. The law. Period. And when you have a leader who sees what's going on right now with the protests and in some cases riots, and yes, that is true. I've seen it. There's some definite people that take things way too far with the protests. The vast majority of them don't, but some of them do. For sure. And then you have the other side where, you have men with guns walking around and scaring the hell out of kids at high schools, separating families, grabbing kids, babies, infants, toddlers. They just came up with a detainment center for toddlers and babies that they took away from families of immigrants. And while all this is going on, as the political discourse gets more and more crazy, as violence escalates on both sides, people getting shot and killed like Renee Nicole, as these things continue to happen, it's the job of a leader. It is the job of the one who's in charge to want to calm this down. But we don't have that. We have somebody that wants one side to feel victorious. And I got to tell you guys, a house divided falls. This country cannot sustain with this level of division. On a political level, on an economic level, on a social level, we're going to collapse. Europe has literally come out and said that they need to consider the reality that they may need to go to war with us over Greenland. Now, if you're one of those people that support and you don't care about that because, hey, fuck England, I don't care. That's your opinion. That's fine. There's some people that would disagree with that, who think that England was our best ally and we should never alienate them, and that Greenland is, taking over Greenland is ridiculous. Different points of views. But what I can tell you is that that is not something that that is not a direction that is sustainable for anybody that lives here, regardless of what your opinion is, regardless of how you vote or who you talk to or what your beliefs are or whatever. What I see is I see two kids fighting. And I see a dad who favors one of his kids. And that is never, in any point in history, been successful at uniting anybody. That's the job of a leader. To unite people. To bring people together around a cause. And to turn the temperature down. And anybody who is in a position of supreme leadership who doesn't do that, that's the core issue. All the rest of it is noise.